The day the world changed. Sally was so upset. Today was Friday and her last day of school in Year 6. She was about to walk out of the school gates for the last time and not return ever again. This wasn't just happening to Sally. All the classes had to finish school today. It was the middle of the school year and the school was closing because a deadly virus was travelling the world, killing people at an alarming rate. It had been decided by the government that the safest place for everyone would be at home. The reason for Sally being so upset was because this was her last school year in this junior school. Finishing school now meant she and her friends wouldn't have the traditional leaving party, and Sally really wanted to say goodbye properly to her teachers and friends who were going to different schools. Most of Sally's friends felt the same way she did. As the school bell rang, signalling the end of the day, everyone gathered their belongings together and began their goodbyes. They were hugging each other, exchanging email addresses, checking phone numbers, and wishing each other well during the home isolation period. Many girls were crying, feeling upset for different reasons. Some were just crying because their friends were crying. This really was a sad day for Year 6 and an unusual end to a school chapter in all their lives. The pupils had learnt in school about the different disasters and events which had killed thousands of people throughout history. But all of that had happened before they were born, and many of them even before their parents were born. But this new virus seemed much scarier to them because it was happening in the world right now. When the virus started its journey around the world, the teachers had explained all the effects it could and would have on the planet. All too quickly, the virus became so bad that drastic action had to be taken. To beat the virus, everyone needed to stay indoors, and so the decision to close schools immediately had been made, and then the country was put on lockdown. At the school gates, Sally said goodbye to her friends and then her mum drove her home. Sally didn't feel much like talking on the way home. It was a lot to take in and she was feeling sorry for herself. Her mum didn't question her silence. Instead, she just gently spoke about her own day and told her that she had been shopping and stocked up on everything they would need for the weeks ahead. Soon they arrived home. Sally went into the kitchen and looked in the cupboards. There was a lot of food, and the pile of her favourite Garibaldi biscuits made her smile. I even have plenty of flour and butter to make cakes and special treats as many times as you want to, said her mum. Sally looked up at her mum and whispered, "We will be okay, won't we?" Hugging her daughter, she said, "Like anything we do, as long as we follow the instructions, we will get through this. Plus, we have each other." And they squeezed each other tightly. "Do you understand why we have to stay at home?" Sally's mum asked her. "Yes, Mum." The school explained very well. "This is to save the world and to stop so many people dying. If we all do as we are told, then this will be worth it." "Yes, sweetheart, this really is serious. But it's also important for us to stay as positive as we can. If either of us have anything on our mind, we must talk about it, good or bad. Will you do that?" "Yes, Mum, I will." Sally's mum smiled at her daughter, knowing that they would get through this together. "Now, make yourself a snack and go and chat with your friends for a while." Sally hugged her mum before grabbing an apple and a glass of milk and going upstairs to her bedroom. Picking up her iPad from her bedside table, she FaceTimed two of her best friends from school. Laura came online first. "Hello, Sally," she said. "My mum's brought us tons of new snacks. Look at these. They're shaped like teddy bears." And she held them up to the camera so Sally could see them. "They look yummy," Sally said. My mum has bought lots of ingredients so I can make cakes. I'm also going to try out the new icing kit we bought last week. They will be cakes to make your mouth water." "Oh," cried Laura, "you know how much I love cake." "I'll try and use my mind to send one to you, like that magic man did with a penny last night on Britain's Got Talent." Both girls laughed at the thought of that happening. "What are you two laughing about?" asked Hazel as she came online. Sally explained while Laura ate her bears. "So what do you both think about this isolation thingy?" asked Laura as she licked her fingers clean. "I think it's stupid," said Hazel, raising her voice. "How is staying indoors going to help? I want to go and play with my friends. We normally meet at McDonald's every Saturday morning and I've a good mind to just go tomorrow." "Well, it won't be open," said Sally. "All the restaurants are closed." "That's ridiculous," said Hazel, crossing her arms in a huff. "But it's for the safety of the world," stressed Sally, feeling quite baffled that her friend was being so ignorant about the whole dilemma. "This situation is a matter of life or death. You have to understand this isn't a game." Seeing her friends staring at her with puzzled looks on their faces, Sally decided to explain her thoughts. "You have to remember that thousands of people have already died, and continuing to do what we have been doing isn't helping that number to drop, it is increasing. Therefore, we have to do something different. By isolating ourselves, there's a good chance the number of deaths will certainly and eventually start to decrease." When you put it like that, it makes sense," said Hazel, a little quieter now. "I guess I have been a bit selfish in my way of thinking. I was worrying about myself and not thinking about others." "We should try and help others understand the situation too," remarked Laura. "But how can we when we aren't allowed outside, let alone able to get together with people?" questioned Hazel. The three girls looked at each other through their iPads while they thought. "Why don't we think about this tonight?" suggested Sally. "We can talk again tomorrow morning and share our thoughts." "Great idea," Laura and Hazel said together. "Now, Hazel, tell us what's going on with you and Andy," Sally said with a smirk on her face. "I saw you both behind the sheds in the playground today." And the girls chatted happily together, as they did most afternoons after school. "Sally," her mum shouted up the stairs, "say goodbye to your friends. You've been up there for over an hour and your tea is ready. Come on down." The girls quickly said goodbye and Sally ran downstairs and into the kitchen. "It smells good, Mum," she said as she sat down at the kitchen table. "It's your favourite, cottage pie, carrots and peas," replied her mum as she dished up the food for them both. "I hope there's gravy too," said Sally, laughing. "Of course there is," said her mum, smiling. "I know how much you enjoy gravy on everything. Now go and wash your hands quickly." Sally and her mum enjoyed their tea and chatted together about the unusual situation the world was in. "The school is putting out homework online starting on Monday," said Sally's mum. "I thought we should turn the spare room into a kind of classroom for you. What do you think?" "That's a good idea, Mum. I also think we should write a timetable for each day so you have structure, the same as you do at school." "Yes," agreed Sally. "Then I can have break times and snacks." "I think I can make that happen," said Sally's mum, and they both laughed. Sally stood up and started to clear the table. "That was delicious, Mum. Thank you." "You're welcome, my darling." As they washed the dishes and cleaned the kitchen, Sally said, "I was looking forward to starting gymnastics classes next week. I've been waiting ages for a place to open up and now it won't be happening." "Oh yes," said her mum. "I'd forgotten about that." "I know. Why don't you use YouTube to learn? There are plenty of videos on there. We could put that on your timetable as exercise a couple of days a week. How does that sound?" "Yes," shouted Sally, clapping her hands excitedly. "I'm sure we will think of other things like this you can do as time goes on," said her mum. "Okay, the kitchen looks clean and tidy. Thank you for helping, darling. Now, why don't we go and work out that timetable for you, and afterwards we can watch a little TV before your bedtime. The next morning at 10, Sally called her friends on FaceTime. "Morning," said Laura as she munched through a bowl of cereal. "You're only just having breakfast?" Sally remarked. "Yes, I slept in today," claimed Laura. "It's going to be great sleeping in every morning for the foreseeable. Something good has come out of this after all." "No, Laura, that is not a good idea at all," exclaimed Sally. "What's not a good idea?" asked Hazel as she came online, joining in the middle of the conversation as usual. "Sleeping in every morning," spluttered Laura through a mouthful of cereal. "Oh, I hadn't thought of that," said Hazel. "Well, don't get any ideas from her," snapped Sally. "This quarantine time needs to be spent productively. If you don't start in the right way, you will slip into bad habits." "What is your plan then?" Laura and Hazel asked together. Sally explained the timetable she and her mum had decided on the night before. "And I'm so excited to learn gymnastics properly," she finished with. "Wow, that sounds like a great plan," said Hazel. "I think I like it too," agreed Laura. "Can you share your timetable with me?" "And me," shouted Hazel, who didn't like to be left out of anything. "Of course I will," said Sally, really pleased she could help her friends. I'll email it over to you later." Now, what ideas have either of you come up with to help others understand this virus situation? "Oh," said Laura, "I forgot all about that. I started watching YouTube and the time just disappeared, and then it was bedtime." "You love YouTube," said Sally, "but it doesn't do you any good when you just watch people doing silly things with slime and other crazy stuff." "That's given me an idea," announced Hazel. "Let's make a YouTube video together." "That's a great idea," agreed Sally. "I was thinking about doing something to explain the importance of staying indoors. Let's make a video about that." "Yes," shouted Hazel and Laura together. "And let's make a video about keeping in touch with friends." All three girls were very excited with their ideas and got to work immediately, planning what each of them would say and do. They decided to make their own individual video and then send it to Hazel, who would join them together before uploading to YouTube. The weeks passed by and the girls made many different videos and uploaded them to their new YouTube channel. They were amazed by how many views they had in their first week, and the numbers just kept on growing. They also decided to create a newsletter once a week. They each wrote about their thoughts and feelings and how they overcame obstacles, plus the new things they had learnt to do. Then they sent it to Sally's mum, who made it into the newsletter and emailed to each girl. Finally, the girls emailed it out to their friends and family, who thoroughly enjoyed reading it. The school timetable worked very well, as it created productive days with no time to become bored. Sally's mum had included a time when Sally would either telephone or FaceTime with her grandparents. Sally missed not being able to visit them during the isolation, and this way of connecting with them really helped. There was also a set time when she would FaceTime with her friends, just to talk about schoolwork. The pandemic went on for much longer than was originally anticipated, but Sally stayed positive and grew to love the new way of doing things. Her mum also enjoyed the new routine they had and was extremely grateful for modern technology, which was playing a large part in their lives now. Sally, Laura and Hazel decided to have their own leaving party for the end of school year. They planned a virtual party and invited many of their other friends to join them. Each girl decorated their room with homemade banners and dressed up in their best clothes. They prepared themselves some snacks and drinks before connecting with each other on FaceTime. After chatting for a while, they took it in turns to play their favourite party songs and dance like no one was watching. They also managed to take lots of photos, which they posted on social media the following day. "That was the best end of school year party ever!" exclaimed Hazel as the three friends chatted on FaceTime the next afternoon. "It certainly was," agreed Laura. It was great that so many of our friends decided to come online and join us. I've never enjoyed a party so much. Life really is as good as you want it to be, said Sally. We have learnt so much from this home confinement. A while ago we thought it was the end of the world, but now life is so much fun. Eventually the virus was contained and people were able to leave their homes and start to build their lives again. Life was different for many people, some better than others. The three girls found that they had achieved so many things during their isolation. They had become less selfish and closer as friends. They also had a large YouTube following and decided to keep making videos, which had helped people. Their friends and families did not want the newsletter to stop, so the girls continued to write this. The newsletter was also helping each girl to enjoy life more and take better notice of things they were doing, no matter how big or small. They all agreed that something good really can come out of something terrible, if you want it to. Instead of grumbling about things which are out of your control, turn your thoughts to things you can control. But the biggest achievement for all of them was when a problem arises, as problems do. Each of them now focuses on finding a solution rather than panicking about the problem. The whole experience had been very fulfilling for all of them, and one they would never forget.